Metro isn't your traditional shooter, it's more of a first-person kind of action-adventure, and then we put a lot of gameplay styles in there, so first-person shooter combat, but also survival horror and exploration. And I think probably the most valid criticism of the first game was that our actual shooting experience wasn't as satisfying as it could have been, and we really wanted to capture that sense of vulnerability. There are a number of resources that you want, so air, ammunition, health, light, and you have to work very hard to get all of them. Your own mask can actually be damaged, as well as all of the visual effects across the front that you have to clean off, so you might actually need to replace the entire mask. The battery on your torch won't last forever, and gradually that wide cone will slowly contract to this tiny flickering beam, probably just at the moment when you go into one of the darker areas, and then you have to whip out the charger, and all of these things put intense pressure on the player and hopefully make them feel very uncomfortable and nervous and frightened, which is kind of exactly how we want it. A real goal for Metro is to completely immerse the player into the game world. We do have a UI, and there will be a HUD, and you will have the option to play with it. We try wherever we can to communicate as much information within the game world. It is perfectly possible to play without any kind of HUD once you're more familiar with the controls, and we had this mode in 2033 called Ranger mode that just took everything off. I'd probably recommend it more for a second playthrough, but once you do that, you have no crosshairs, you have to rely on your iron sight, or if you're lucky, a red dot if you have a weapon that's equipped with it. But you find that most of the information that you need we convey physically through the world, whether it's the amount of oxygen left on your watch. You can see the amount of ammunition left in your magazine on many weapons as the clip passes through, so we tell a lot of that visually, and that really helps us deliver that kind of immersion. But also it's this physical interaction with the game world at the same time. So it wasn't in this demo, but you may have seen from E3 last year, when you turn out a light bulb, rather than just press a use button and out it goes, you actually reach forward and unscrew the bulb. You get that connection with the game world, and it just sort of breaks down the barrier between you and the world that you're in, and we're trying as much as possible to make that a feature that we can keep consistently throughout the game. I think one of the problems we had with the first game was we introduced lots of very complex ideas, and we did a very bad job of explaining them to the player and introducing them to the player. So you might get a tooltip that would flash up on screen and say, this is how wall of text, this feature works. Got that? And you'd be like, yeah, I think so, and then that would be it. And you kind of really have to learn the game and learn its ins and outs to really understand what was happening there. So we're keeping that mechanic. We think it's really important. It's a really interesting dynamic that the player has the choice to either spend or fire these more powerful weapons. I think we're just focusing on proving all of the substance around that. So the trading mechanic, the upgrade interface, the way that we actually communicate this concept to the player the first time around and explain to them the importance of this, hopefully weave it into the narrative more closely, rather than just using a kind of on-screen tip and leaving it at that. So we're mindful it was a really interesting feature that we want to keep and develop. I think we can just do a better job of explaining that to the player. We have a very rich cast of characters within the game. They're really important to us from a narrative perspective. We think storytelling should happen within the level, not just in cutscenes between the levels. So there'll be levels within the game where you'll have an AI companion, maybe more than one. And that also allows us to do things within the gameplay that you can't do to a solo player. It helps from a gameplay perspective, it helps from a narrative perspective, but we also put the player on their own, a lot throughout the game as well. I think I'm right in saying that all of the mutants that we have from 2033 return, although we've redesigned a lot of them, both physically and also in terms of their AI and behaviours. We've added a few more mutant types this time round as well. We showed off one of our larger mutants in the demo last year. So yeah, the idea is that you should be able to see some kind of connection between present day creatures and what they may have evolved into. So you know, both in terms of appearance or maybe behaviours. You you see something and think like, has that evolved from, you know, one of those or one of those? I think, as we saw from the word of mouth from the last game, if we do our job and make a great game, then we'll find that there are a lot of smart gamers who will want to enjoy it.